Today on Tennessee Spirits Back Roads, we've traveled about 2 hours north of Memphis on Highway 45 West up to a little town called Kenton, Tennessee. Now this town is famous for its white squirrels, and we're only about 30 minutes away from Union City. So we're visiting the White Squirrel Winery owned by Bill Sanderson and his wife Margie. So let's go in and see what they've got. Hi, we're at the White Squirrel Winery, and I want to introduce you to the owners, Bill Sanderson and his wife Margie. And they have a unique place here. Now, Bill, it's a long story, cut it short, but how did you get into the business?
Well, good morning, Jim, and thank you for asking. You know, farming has been in my family for a long time. We've been in the walking horse business, and so we bought this farm about 30 years ago, and we were raising horses on here. And so I was a home winemaker, and I had 5-gallon core boys in my bedroom and in my kitchen. And I was making wine. I make a pretty good wine, actually. So I decided, I was making those out of the kit, so I decided to plant some vines. So I planted about 100 vines, and I made wine out of some vines I was growing in essentially my front yard. And I went on a trip to California, and while I was on the trip, I wanted to go to some of the smaller, more obscure wineries. And so I went to this one that was a metal building, but I walked in, there were tanks in there were people everywhere, people enjoying the wine. And when I got closer to the bar, I heard the guy talking, and I heard his accent, and he had a southern accent. And so as I got up there, and it was my turn, I said, "You've got a southern accent. Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Tennessee." I said, "Heck, that's where I'm from." I said, "What are you doing out in California?" He said, "I came out with my wife, and I was doing the wine tastings. I was talking to people growing the grapes and making the wine, and I told my wife, and I looked at her and said, 'Honey, go home and get the kids. I ain't going.'" He went to UC Davis, got his enology. He was a chemist at Oak Ridge. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I decided I wanted to be in the wine business, commercially. So that year, Jim, I planted my first 3 acres. I had Dave Lockwood. He came down from UT Extension, and we put in Traminette, Norton, and Chamberson vines. And for, that was 13 years ago. So I've been growing grapes for 13 years. We planted those 3 varieties. The very next year, I planted Chardonnay and Noret. And then within 3 years, we had 12 acres of vines. We were selling those first vines, those first grapes, and so the thing just kind of took itself off. My intention was only to be in the farming industry. I did not want to be in the winery business, but I was delivering grapes to a big winery in Middle Tennessee. They had 6 tanks on the back of their loading dock, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing with those tanks?" He said, "We've got bigger ones coming, we want to sell them." I said, "Unload the grapes and load up the tanks." I brought my tanks down to Crown Winery in Humboldt. I got my license to be a Tennessee farm winery, and they started producing product for me in my tanks. And this particular wine was the first year that we put my own grapes into a wine, to a tank, and this is a 2011 Norton. It's a wonderful wine. We grow all of our grapes here. We are the largest fruit-producing vineyard in Tennessee. We will produce about 140,000 pounds of hand-picked grapes here, and they're in high demand. We sell all the grapes. We can sell all the grapes we want. Of course, we keep what we need. That has been a profitable part for this business, is growing the grapes and selling the grapes. But the wine business is something that we got into 3 years ago, right, Margie?
Right, yeah.
Now, y'all been in business since
2014.
2014. Yeah. And Margie, how did y'all come up with the name White Squirrel? Tell us the story on that. It's very unique.
Yes, white squirrels are really unique to this area of Kenton, Kenton. A lot of people confuse it with Canton, but it's Kenton, Tennessee. And the first time I'd ever heard white squirrel was in Kenton. I'd never heard of one. I'm from Iowa originally. And when Bill first told me that they had white squirrels in Kenton before I moved here and we got married, I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yep, they're albino and they have red eyes." I did a little research on the white squirrels, and Kenton is one of 5 towns in North America that has the albino squirrels. And there are other towns that claim to have albino squirrels, but they are not true albino with the red eyes, and some of those squirrels have a little black or gray mixed in, but these are just pure snow white squirrels, very striking to see in the grass and on the trees. And Kenton is known as the home of the white squirrel. And I did this painting of a white squirrel back here, and that's the white squirrel that you actually see on the Welcome to Kenton signs at both ends of the town. So when you enter Kenton, it says, Welcome to Kenton, home of the white squirrel. So that's where the name came from. And if you drive through town, you'll see some white squirrels scampering around some of the yards.
Now, Bill, you're on the Wine Trail of West Tennessee, which consists of 8 wineries. You're the one in the northwest corner. So what days are you open? What's your hours? And what else do you do out here? I know you just don't do wine.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. We are only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Retail part is really open only 14 hours per week. However, we have lots of parties. We have anniversary parties. We have class reunions. Matter of fact, Jim, last night we were here till 11 o'clock. We had the class reunion of a local high school. But next weekend we have a wedding. The following weekend we have a 2-day wedding. And so we have a lot of events out here aside from when we're open. Matter of fact, we have a bus tour coming through here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be 2 busloads of folks that are traveling from Missouri. And they come down through here and they buy our wine and they buy our gifts, and we have live music for them, and that's during the week. So we are open aside from being just on those 14 hours per week. But that's the set hours. I'm in the state legislature, Jim, and so I'm in Nashville a good part of the time, a part of the year, and so the vines are dormant during that time of the year, and so it works really good with my job. When we adjourn, usually at the end of April, that's when the vines are coming out, and so then I spend pretty much the summer and the fall taking care of the vines and taking care of the grapes. And so that's kind of what my schedule. Margie, she's a teacher, and when she's not out here, she's usually in the schoolroom, or she's at home making candles.
Which one?
But Jim, this is our Norton, and this is in a Missouri white oak barrel. It's been oaked for about 2 years, and it is the I'd say probably the go-to red grape for this part of the country. This was one of the original grapes our founding fathers used to make a quality wine when they came from Europe, and they couldn't produce those vinifera grapes they had over there. And so this is a wonderful grape, dark, and as a matter of fact, that's what we're picking in the vineyard this morning. We have 6 pickers out there, and we'll pick about 8,000, 9,000 pounds this morning, and tomorrow that'll be made into juice.
Now, you don't make your wine right here on the premises,
right,
but you do have another location, so you do actually make your own wines. I want everybody to know that you've got all this acres of grapes out here, and you pick them, you harvest them, and you process them, and so now you're a full-fledged winery.
Well, you know, this is a 100-acre farm. My mother, my brother, and I, and our families, we all live out here together. And the beauty, and I'm sure that you'll get some pictures of that, but it's a really pretty area. I didn't really want to have the manufacturing facility down here. We actually own a bunch of buildings, commercial buildings downtown, and so our manufacturing happens down there. We've got 3-phase power, and Jim, you know how it is sometimes with these electric cooperatives. It's tough getting the electricity we need to our locations. Yeah. You may have dealt with that. Right. However, we do have that downtown, and that was one of the primary reasons we located downtown in the more of the industrial area. So all our wine is made down there. We have a big cooler and whatnot, and so we're actually the only manufacturer or grower of grapes that has a drive-in cooler. So today we'll take these grapes and we'll take them in on the forklift and we'll cool those grapes down to about 28, 29 degrees. Get them really good and cool. It'll kill any wild yeast that's on there. So we actually turn that into juice in a day or two. It'll be good and cold, and so it'll start a good cold fermentation rather than a hot fermentation, because as you know, it's almost 90 degrees out there today, right. And the worst thing we can do is start a fermentation that's too hot. We can get that sulfur smell, and so we prefer to cool our grapes down, and I think that's part of the reason we have a good wine.
Good. Now, we're going to take a break. In just a minute, we're going to come back. Now, Margie is an artist in her own right, and we're going to see some of the things that she produces here at the winery. Now, Margie has a unique position in the winery. She's an artist, a craftsperson, and so a lot of her products are sold here. So, Margie, explain what you make, what you sell, and these are statewide, correct?
These are statewide, yes. Well, one of the things that I thought was important when we started the tasting room here at the vineyard was to have products that come right here from the farm. So I'm an artist. I'm also a middle school art teacher, and I thought that it would be nice to make some candles and have them be in the fragrances of fruit that comes here from the farm, like blackberries and blueberries and grapes and all sorts of other scents as well. I've always been a candle lover, and I got into making those candles when we opened the winery. And I make wax tart melts that people can put in their wax burners, and I make soaps, and I also make mason jar candles, and we do wine bottle candles where my husband Bill takes our wine bottles from the tasting room and cuts them off so we can repurpose the wine bottles. My candles fall under two different names. We do a private label here for the winery, which has the White Squirrel Artisan Candle label on them. And the more general label is Tennessee Candle Company. And the Tennessee Candle Company line is in West Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and also in East Tennessee in Gatlinburg. So it's something I just really enjoy doing. It's creative. I work with fragrances and colors. So it is very creative. And the mason jar candles have kind of a country farm look.
And you also design all the t-shirts.
I do. I design all the t-shirt art. And
it's all based on the white squirrel. As you can see, she takes a lot of the fun of the white squirrel and characterizes them in different ways.
Yes, this is a very fun one, a white squirrel with a little shotgun that says, "The rugged and the refined."
And then also, the Sanderson Family Farms has been around here a long time. And so right over here, we have the Sanderson Family Farm. Your family, the Sanderson Family Farms, has also some very unique products that are indigenous just to this place. Now, they're food products. So can you please explain these right here that y'all make?
Yes, we have lots of jams and butters, apple and pear butters. We've got salsas and bread and butter pickles and relishes, syrups and marinades for foods. You know, we are a vineyard, and one of the first things that we thought of was gourmet foods and sauces and jams that come from the farm. Some of the fruit comes from the farm, and we have a lovely Mennonite couple that makes these for us. The labels are all done here at the farm. I create all the labels, and we use our logo, Sanderson Family Farm, on them. And we just really enjoy being able to offer different fruits and vegetables that are native to this part of the country. So.
And this is a Pick Tennessee product, which statewide we like to push always Pick Tennessee. We try to keep it local as best we can.
Exactly.
Well, the Tennessee wine industry, I think, is an emerging opportunity. Just like in the distilled spirits or the craft beers, we're an opportunity that's just at the threshold of growth. If you look at our neighboring states, Illinois, Missouri, Virginia, all those guys, they've seen a lot more growth than we have. And what Tennessee's got to do is what they've done. We need an expert enologist, we need an expert viticulturist, and I'm going to help try to get funding for that. Matter of fact, I've even spoke to the governor about that, and I think that's the direction that Tennessee needs to go in. If we're going to make a product that's going to be held to the same standards as California and Washington and Texas products are. And so we can grow good grapes, no doubt. You've seen from my vineyard this morning, we've harvested about 120,000 pounds of grapes this year in this vineyard alone. We're now the largest producer of wine grapes in the state of Tennessee. And I put my grapes up beside anybody in Missouri and Virginia or any of our neighboring states. And the grapes are not the product. We just need a consistency on the wine. And if we've got 70 wineries in the state, they all need to be making a good product. And for that reason, that's why we need a statewide enologist and viticulturist. The West Tennessee Wine Trail is working. I have folks that come through my winery every day that we're open, and they've got that little wine cart in there, and they're following the trail. And so I think that it's been a real benefit for my winery, that's for sure. And while the people are there visiting and trying my wine, they see the beauty of the vineyard. They see the beauty of our tasting room. And before you know it, they booked a family reunion there, or they may be having a wedding in the future. And so I think it's so important that we use that mechanism to get the folks through the door, and then they taste the wine, and the whole thing just kind of takes legs on itself. And they visit the other wineries up and down. We've got 8 wineries now, and over 100 miles, and so it makes for a great weekend trip. You can stay at the motels and the bed and breakfasts, eat at the restaurants, or you can stay in we have a loft apartment up there. And I had some folks here from Mississippi that were doing the wine trail, and they had mentioned they were going to go up and stay in Paris at some motel. And I said, hey, we've got a loft B&B up there, and they wound up spending the weekend with me. And so that's an immediate impact on our economy, the economy of our county, and our state of Tennessee. And so it's so important that we promote things like the West Tennessee Wine Trail, and that becomes a part of the whole economic device that causes our economy to grow.